So then I really freaked out. So I'm like, wait a minute, somebody called you and identified themselves as Doolin Cut and Trim? You guys aren't gonna believe this. So I got a call, and I was at the bulk, product place where I get mulch, and so I tried to answer the call. I didn't get to it fast enough, and so I see the lady leaves a voicemail, and when I listened to it on the voicemail, she goes, "Leave my mother alone. Her name said her name. She does not need service from your company. Stop calling her." And she says some other stuff. And I was taken aback because if you know me or if you know my business, you know I don't call anybody. Like literally, I don't call anyone. And so I'm trying to figure out who is this person? So I pull up the person's name in my phone, on Service Autopilot. This person's not in there. So I've worked with maybe 500 or 600 people at this point since I started my business. So I was like, maybe I forgot her, but even if I did, it doesn't matter. I've never heard of this person. So, even if I had heard of this person, I wouldn't have called them. That's just not something I would ever do. I don't like calling people on the phone. So, I always handle all that kind of stuff through email. So I call her back, and I'm like, "Hi, this is Randy with Doolin Cut and Trim. I got your message, and I was a little taken aback by it because I don't know who your mother is, and I'm a little concerned about this because I don't know who this is." And so she says, "I've got you on a list of numbers that have been calling my mother and trying to scam her. She's in her 80s. The kind of the drill. You know what I'm talking about, where people call elderly people and say "Oh, you need to pay X, Y, and Z to, this thing's broken, you need to pay to fix it," or whatever, these scams. And so she said, "So I've been calling back all these numbers to tell them to stop, and your number was one of the ones that was on that list." And I was just like, that's really bad. So I said, I was like, I was so taken aback. I said, "So you're telling me 443-878-9253, that's our office number, that number called you?" And she says, "No, I don't have that on my list." And I'm like, so then I really freaked out. So I'm like, wait a minute, somebody called you and identified themselves as Doolin Cut and Trim? And then she says, and then she calmed down, because I think she could hear that I was just as freaked out as she was. And so, I think she started to pick up on the fact that I'm not a bad guy. I'm not, obviously I'm not trying to scam anybody's mom. And so she kind of calmed down at that point, and we started talking, and you explain the situation, and she's listing off these numbers. She's like, "Are any of these numbers yours?" And I'm like, "No, they're not." I said, she said, "You don't have any 410 numbers?" I said, "No, we have a business cell phone, but I've never called a single customer on it. We always do all that communication through the office line." And so we talked some more, and it was one of those weird things. She started off so angry, and by the end of the conversation, she was telling me, "It's okay, it's all right. I know you didn't do anything." And so, but it's just like, oh my gosh. So and then as we were talking, I said, "You know what?" I said, "And the reason I'm concerned is because my phone service is through an online company." Our business line, and so that's why I'm concerned, and so I'm afraid we might have gotten hacked and not known it. And she says, and I don't remember, and then it occurred to me. I said, let me pull up, because when we first switched to the system, Ooma Office, when we when we first switched to Ooma Office, we had to start up an account with Ooma Office and then transfer our number. So we had a temporary number that I've never been able to get off my account. And honestly, after a while, I stopped caring. And so I started searching for that number. And so I finally found it. I was like, hey, is 410 204 whatever? I don't even know if it's 204, but whatever it was. I read it off to her. Is that on your list? And she says, yes, it is. That's probably how I called you back. And I was like, oh my God. Because, I mean, we've literally never used that number, ever. So I don't know how, but I don't know what happened, but somehow somebody has gotten a hold of our temporary number and is calling people's grandmothers. Now, interestingly enough, she said when you call, like on the caller ID, it comes up as a guy named, what is this guy's name? I don't mind putting this guy's name out there because if he's a scammer, screw this guy, you know what I mean? His name is John Dennis. What's the odds that's a real name? Well, screw you, John Dennis. But she said it comes up as that name, but when I called back, it was your company. And so I was like, I apologized all over myself. I said, I am so sorry. Believe me, that is something we would never, ever do. It's a phenomenal waste of time. We would never do that. I said, I am sorry this happened. It's possible we've been hacked or something. She said it's only been going on the last 2 weeks, but apparently we've called her mother 4 or 5 times in the past 2 weeks. We don't even call our own customers that much. I got customers I've been working with 5 years. I've literally never called. That's just not something we would ever do. I don't think I've even called my best friend 5 times in the last, last couple of years. So once I get home, I gotta call Ooma Office and figure. I gotta change the password too. And I got to call Ooma Office and find out what's going on because this is ridiculous. I cannot believe that happened. So I'll keep you guys updated.